Coming to paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets from the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Pre-order your copy of ISIS Legacy on Amazon.com today. Black Panther director Ryan Coogler was racially profiled when he came into a Bank of America in Atlanta looking to make a withdrawal for $12,000. Now, your Ryan Coogler came into this Atlanta Bank of America wearing a hat, sunglasses, and a mask, and the teller, on seeing Ryan Coogler dressed in this hat, sunglasses, and mask, thought that he was a robber because he, after presenting his withdrawal slip, then presented her with a note asking that this transaction for $12,000 be handled discreetly. Now, this teller went out here and, on seeing that note, reacted by contacting the police, and she contacted the police thinking that Ryan Coogler was a bank robber. Now, all of the individuals in this case with Ryan Coogler were black. However, this is a case of racial profiling because this is basically this female teller thought that Ryan Coogler was a bank robber based on her perceptions of black men, because many black people, because we imbibe so much media out here from the white media, we start to buy into these ideas regarding black men, and that's what happened here with Ryan Coogler. This black teller saw Ryan Coogler as another black man who was looking to commit crime because she didn't give him the benefit of a doubt. Now, a critical thinker would have observed the situation differently, and they would have handled this situation differently. Had this teller been critically thinking, they would have looked down at the withdrawal slip that Ryan Coogler was presenting them, and they would have noticed that this man has account numbers on his withdrawal slip. And on seeing that account number on the withdrawal slip, they would have gone out here and then went to their manager and then asked for instructions on how to handle the situation. Because that's what any critical thinking individual would do in an effort to handle the situation discreetly. They would then say, look, I need to go talk to my manager, and then we will go out here and try to handle this in the quietest and most discreet way possible. Because after you go to the manager, they will then ask for you for some ID, and then once you get the ID, then you can go handle this whole transaction in the most quiet and discreet way possible. Because whenever somebody's out here asking for large sums of cash like this, there is a procedure for doing things, but sadly, this teller didn't understand that procedure because they got in their feelings about that note, and they got in their feelings about that note because they thought Ryan Coogler was a black man looking to participate in a robbery. And they thought he was looking to participate in a robbery because that's the way many people go out here and rob banks these days. A lot of times when you have bank robbers, they will hand the teller a note, and then the teller will hand them the money that's in their drawer, and then they will let that individual leave because they don't want that individual to do harm to others, and they don't want to jeopardize the safety of others. So I'm looking at this whole situation, and this teller made a lot of mistakes that would possibly get whoever they are fired, because for her to contact the police, that's a definite no-no as related to a bank. When you ever are being handed a note, the procedure is, again, if you think you're being robbed or your teller station is being robbed, you go out here and give them the money and let them leave the premises. But in this case, this woman really did not do her job because she didn't go out here and look down at the slip. The first thing you look at the slip is for those account numbers. If there's an account number and there's a large transaction, again, this requires manager approval because the manager has to approve on any withdrawals over $5,000, I believe, in order to ensure that the money is signed for and that there's accounts of it. So she didn't go to her manager, and again, she didn't go to her manager because she thought this black man was out here getting ready to perpetrate a robbery. So that's why she contacted the police instead of following procedure as related to a high level transaction. Now, I wonder if this was a white man, would this teller have approached things differently? If this were a white man, would she have gone out here and gone to these extremes? That's a critical question I would like to ask about this situation, because I bet if it was a white man and he was even scruffy looking and raggedy looking, I believe that she would not have gone out here and contacted the police. She would have followed procedure and gone to her manager and then brought that white man all of his funds, because in most people's minds, the only person who is supposed to have large sums of money is a white man. And if a black man is entering a business and he has large sums of money, it is oftentimes perceived that he is either a criminal or he's up to no good. And that's what happened here with Ryan Coogler. They thought that this prominent director was just another common criminal, and that's something that happens to many professional black men out here. And that really proves an old point that Malcolm X had talked about, that it doesn't matter how much education you have or how much success you have, you are seen as an N-word. And I even pointed this out in my own novel, The Temptation of John Haynes, where CEO John Haynes is going to a supermarket and to pick up some groceries for the weekend in his own office building, and he's racially profiled in his own office building because people's perceptions of black men are to see us as criminals and see us as the bad guy. Even though we're just trying to go about our business, we're oftentimes seen as the bad guy, but we're not given the same benefit of a doubt that a white or a non-black man is given. No, in the case of a white or a non-black man, he can walk into a bank and present a withdrawal slip for a large amount of money, and when he presents that withdrawal slip for all of that money, nobody questions whether that money is his or not. No, if that man goes into that bank, the manager will quickly sign off on it, especially if that white man is wearing a suit and tie, and they possibly won't even ask him for ID as related to anything, because his white skin will give him a pass for whatever thing that he wants to do. I mean, his white skin will be all that anybody needs to see, and that really shows again how spellbound many Americans are as related to race, because the only black person they see as having any sort of money is either a criminal, like a drug dealer, or some sort of guy in illegal enterprise. They cannot fathom the idea of a black man, especially a heterosexual black man, going out here and being able to make large sums of money and being able to withdraw large sums of money for a transaction. They cannot fathom that idea because the only way they see black men is as poor and struggling, and because they only see black men as poor and struggling, they go out here and they project stereotypes onto black men, and they project those stereotypes onto black men because they don't really see us as having anything of our own. I mean, when I look at what's happened to your Ryan Coogler, it's nothing new to me, sadly, because I wrote about this in The Temptation of John Haynes, because I've run into these kinds of situations, and they don't really see anybody as a black man. They only see us as criminals and thugs. They only see that type of black man because that's the only type of black man that fits into their smooth world, and they project that onto every black man, whether he's an accomplished director like Ryan Coogler, a writer like myself, and businessman, or any sort of successful professional black man. if you're casually dressed or even wearing a suit and a tie, you're all seen as criminals in the eyes of even our own people, like the black woman here, because they've been brainwashed by white supremacy to buy into these ideas about black men. And the whole thing is, we have to break that programming. And that's one of the things I try to do with books like The Temptation of John Haynes, is try to break that programming, because we have to start breaking that programming, because if we don't take the idea out of our own minds, we can't really push back on these ideas when they're out here. And that's what's the sad part about this whole situation in Atlanta. You had a whole group of black people, but their minds were spellbound by white supremacy. And because their minds were spellbound by white supremacy, they fit director Ryan Coogler of Black Panther, one of the highest grossing black films ever made, into the box that's acceptable to white people. And as they fit him into that box that was acceptable to white people, they put him in a situation where he was racially profiled by his own people. And that is the sad part about what happened to Ryan Coogler. He wound up getting racially profiled by his own people, because his own people were programmed by white supremacy to see black as bad and see anybody who is black as bad, without ever giving them the same benefit of the doubt they would give a white person. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up the novel The Temptation of John Haynes, or Spellbound, to learn more about how your racial profiling affects black people and how fitting into the black box to be accepted by white people affects black people, you can find both of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.